What?
Ouch. I was like,
Someone said that to you?
yes, to a 17-year-old girl.
That person would be fired today.
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like that's an insane thing to say to somebody.
We live in a complex and ever-changing world, a place that is maybe harder than ever to successfully navigate. The answer is surely to be brave, but it's also to seek and be open to guidance. Mentors are the one consistent through line in the lives of all accomplished people, myself included. So welcome to Mentor Buffet, a feast for those, like me, curious about who helped the most successful among us succeed. Ciara Bravo has been an actress since she was 9 years old.
Growing up, I was like, no, people become doctors and lawyers, or they, work at Kroger, or, whatever it is. It was, the last thing from my mind was that anyone could be in the entertainment industry.
Her breakout role was on Nickelodeon's Big Time Rush when she was 12.
Big Time Rush felt like I had won the lottery.
Since then, she's been in a bunch of movies and TV shows you've seen, like Wayne in 2019, Cherry in 2021, and also my movie, Not an Artist. So you do move to LA, right?
Yes.
And first of all, did you live in that apartment where all the people live?
That was the first piece of advice I was given, was don't live in that apartment.
So what's the apartment is where a lot of younger actors end up living if they're like away from home and balancing school.
Yeah, because it's like a, month by month rental, and a lot of them will come furnished. So it's really convenient, which I understand. Like, it makes sense. And I think a lot of people are under the idea, or, operate under the idea of like, oh, you're surrounded by like-minded people. Like, that's a good thing. But it's really competitive. And there's a lot of stage parents there that, can make things a little dramatic sometimes. And especially at that point in time, I can't speak to it now. I have no idea if it even exists still. But my manager was like, don't go there.
Don't live in the place.
Don't live in the place.
Did it have a name?
It was the Oakwoods.
Okay, the Oakwoods.
Yeah, because the set on Big Time Rush was a play on the Oakwoods. It was the Palm Woods.
Oh my gosh.
So it's very full circle.
Yeah.
Big Time Rush felt like I had won the lottery. I was like, this is my 1 in a million. This never happens to people. Also, being a child actor and transitioning into adulthood is it feels impossible. At that point in time, I was like, I'm just going to appreciate this for what it is and be excited about this opportunity and like soak it all in and enjoy it. And then when I'm 16, we'll figure out obviously we didn't know it was going to go 4 years, but I was like, when it's done, I'll figure out what feels right from there. But I was still back and forth. At that point, I was still half and half. Because when I was in Los Angeles, I was on set all the time. If I wasn't on set, I was like banking hours for school. So like work was my life. I didn't really have an opportunity to like plant my roots or like build a social life there. So I didn't feel very connected to Los Angeles. I still felt connected to home. So Big Time Rush ended. And I knew from that point I started to fall in love with like the actual craft of acting, the art of it. And I wanted to go deeper into that and explore some more adult roles because it's, I was playing the like sassy little sister for 4 years and I cherished that and it was so much fun. But at 16, you're really starting to feel things on a deeper, like far more intense level. And I was like, I want to feel this in my work. I want to explore this in my work. And I booked Red Band Society, which gave me that opportunity. And I was like, this is what acting is. Like, this is what this career is. And that just like, I don't know, felt like an explosion for me. I was like, this is unbelievable. This is the best feeling in the world. Like truly getting to build a character and, I don't know, finding depth in it. And, I do watch, I've seen some of the scenes back as an adult and I'm like, oh.
Purpose, right?
Yes, yeah.
And it's like knowing that where you are is exactly where you belong and that everybody feels the same way. Like nobody's like not bought in or like whatever, which is like not unlike how camp can feel.
Exactly. I think that's why I like this career so much. There are a lot of similarities between the two of them.
Yeah, that's an awesome thought. And
it also feels like a bunch of misfits who have just,
does it
found their place. I think so.
How? Tell me more.
I think
you've been around it more than me, so tell me more.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think that this industry or this art form, it attracts a lot of different types of people, but a common theme that I found is people who just feel kind of lost or like other elsewhere. And this has given them a chance to just find I don't know if like community is the right word, or just like find an outlet. And there's a lot of like really odd ducks in this business. There's a lot of characters, and I'm addicted to that. I adore it. I love being around those types of people who have just like had extremely unique individual experiences and are truly unlike anyone else I've ever met. And then like watching other people be able to access these like different parts of themselves and like bring them to life in such a magnetic way is just addicting to me. I find it so fulfilling and inspiring.
Yeah. I almost wanted to be like, why the word addicting? Like, because it sounds so like...
I feel like it has a lot of negative connotations typically. Yeah. And maybe that is true. I do find that maybe this isn't like the best way to put it, but a lot of times I equate this career to like an emotionally abusive relationship where it's like you don't ever really have the power until you're on a set. I have found, and it's like when things are going well in this business, it just feels so good, and it's incredible, and you're like, this is why I do it. But then when it's going poorly, it is so bad. And it hurts because a lot of times it can feel personal, where it's like, oh, we don't want you for this, it can be physical, where it's like your legs aren't long enough, or like we want someone with a different face. And it's like, okay, it's like, what are you going to do about that? That's out of my hands, and that's fine. I don't have any control over that. What I have beef with and what annoys me is when someone drops me from a project, or I don't get the opportunity to pursue a project because they're like, oh, you don't have enough followers on Instagram, or it's like, who even are you? Which is something I've heard before. And it's like, youch, dude, that hurts. That hurts my feelings. Yeah. And that's so mean.
It's so mean, and it's new.
Yeah.
Like and it's the same in the athletic world too, where like your accolades, your objective performance, which in sports is a little more objective, right?
Yeah.
It's not even enough anymore.
That's so frustrating.
I mean, it's enough to make an Olympic team, which is a great goal to have.
Yeah.
But it's not enough to support yourself, right? Which is so wild. And yet it's also like, we're grateful for like the social media side of it in sports, because it means, what if you want to have a baby one day, or you get injured? How do you have any value? So it gives you the opportunity to have some value without your body being your job. But in the arts, it seems so like counter to like development and evolution in the arts if somebody has to already have something to be deserving of something in the future.
Yeah.
That's a really hard thing.
It's tough. That's how I feel about it. I know other people have extremely valid opinions on it, where it's like, it gives you access to the community, where it's like the press doesn't control your image, you can control your image, which that I understand the value in that. I don't like when things like that take precedent over the art that we're making. And that's what I find so extremely frustrating. I left Red Band Society feeling a little disheartened and lost, and I was definitely sick mentally, like I wasn't doing well. And, I think that's a part of being 17 years old and being in the world. And I was going through in my personal life between 17 and 20, which is when I met Shawn. It was just, I was so lost and in a lot of pain, and really, I think, numb to a lot of the world and what was going on, and, participating in some like maybe not great choices and some like harmful behaviors. And I think I was just like I was angry and I was hurting and I was frustrated and I felt out of control of my own life. And it wasn't anything like major, like not to downplay what I was going through, which was, legitimate and unpleasant. But I was sort of coming through towards the end of 19. There were a lot of major changes in my life and in my friendships and, relationships. And I think I had discovered a new version of myself that I was starting to feel settled in. And I was wanting that, was craving that same feeling in my career, which I felt like at that point I had slipped into a lull, and everything felt like, all of the auditions that were coming through, I was like, it felt like work. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It is my job. And sometimes you work on projects that are work so you can pay your bills, because that's a part of life. And it's a privilege that I even get to do those jobs to be able to pay my bills. But at that point, I was just feeling really uninspired and very disconnected. And I was sitting at my kitchen table, and this audition came through for Wayne. And I read the synopsis, and it was 2 kids, Brockton, Massachusetts, run away. It was 2017. I was like, this sounds amazing. And then I read the full script, which I very, very rarely do for a first round audition. I'll just read the sides, and usually for a callback or something further down the line, I'll read the full script. But I don't know, for some reason I was like, I got to read this full script. And it was perfect. It was gorgeous. It was heartfelt, and it was sweet, and it was a little elevated, which is a quality I absolutely adore in work. It took you out of reality a skosh, but then it opened up this door to so much heart and so much depth, and these 2 characters who were just unzipped and raw, but angry with the world and trying to find their place. And I was like, me. It was having a mirror held up to myself in a way. And also I just thought the project was really cool. And I was like, I want to do this. I need to do this. And so I auditioned for it, got a call back, ended up booking it, which is amazing. Actually, there's a weird, during the callback, I had parked. I always get there 30 minutes early, and I'd parked in Hollywood. And a lot of times when I'm running the lines in my car, I pretend to be on my phone so people don't think I'm talking to myself. This was back before Bluetooth was super common, or AirPods or whatever. So I'll pretend to be on the phone and run the lines with myself on the phone in the car. And I have my windows cracked a little bit, and I was running the lines in my car, and this group of guys walked by, and I saw one of them look into the car, and then I was like, oh, and then he looked into the car again, and he was like, oh my God, oh my God. And I realized he had recognized me, and I was like, oh no, I'm on a fake phone call. And I was like, this is so embarrassing. He was talking, he was like, I love Big Time Rush, whatever. And I was like, oh yeah, thanks. And I was like, sorry, Mom, let me give you a call back. And I pretended to end this conversation so I could have this conversation with this person outside my car. And he was like, my buddy's a rapper, let him do a freestyle for you. And I was like, absolutely, yes. And he freestyled for me before I went into my audition. And I really think they're the reason why I had the confidence to perform the way that I did there. I owe that project to them.
Every year I run the New York City Marathon. And when I go, I walk a lot. I will take the subway from my brother's apartment in Brooklyn into Manhattan, swing through the Met, get lunch at my favorite ramen spot, and then head to the expo to get my bib. And after the race, it's my tradition to go on a hike, even when I'm in the city. And this year I got to try out Merrell's new shoe, the SpeedArc Surge Boa. This is a light hiking shoe that I wore all the way around Central Park, and it was really easy for me to go from soft to hard surface as I walked to meet my cousin for brunch on the Lower East Side. And the Boa lacing system is way easier than normal laces, especially for adjusting mid-hike. You literally twist it, and then when you want to release it, it just pops off, and then it loosens, which is really helpful. The dual density foam midsole makes the SpeedArcs feel buoyant, which is one of my favorite words. And I love this matrix upper. It doesn't tear, which is really important. And basically these shoes are cute. I am going to wear them to my new movie premiere. And I literally got stopped on the streets in New York and at the Marathon Expo because people wanted to know, where did I get my shoes? I got them from Merrill, and you can too. Use code MentorBuffet25 for 25% off your first order at Merrill.com.
So then I ended up booking Wayne, which was hugely exciting, like beyond exciting. And I went to Toronto to film the pilot, and it was just like immediately perfect. Like everything felt great. Everyone was excited to be there. Everyone really liked each other. Everyone was like cool and normal. And Shawn was the head of it all. He was the showrunner. He created the show. He is, to this day, one of the best bosses I've ever had. It was an extremely difficult shooting experience. The pilot especially, we were filming in Toronto in December, like end of November, December. Ice cold, freezing. Like, we're playing two 15-year-olds who are, of course, like not dressed appropriately because 15-year-olds don't dress appropriately for the weather. So we're in like t-shirts and light jackets in this below freezing weather, and we're like shivering, and we're working like 14-hour days. But Shawn was always looking after us and taking care of us. And he fought for his crew, and he fought for us as actors, and he made sure that we were safe emotionally. He made sure that we were safe and comfortable as we could be physically. It was just like, it was, I think, the first time in a long time that I had felt taken care of in a space like that. And it was amazing.
Isn't that what makes it like camp?
Yeah.
Too? Because like if you were at a camp, of course you would be taken, like it would be safe.
Mm-hmm.
You would have your amenity. Like you can't, that's like a prerequisite to camp.
Yeah.
So if this person is like allowing you to have your basics at like in a good way, then you can really play.
Exactly.
Right?
Like he was our counselor. He was our camp director. He was setting up the boundaries for us, but like allowed us free reign to just be. And it felt so good. And being on that set and working on that project from the pilot through, going back in the summer to shooting the rest of the show was so, it filled my cup. It brought me back to life.
And you were saying that you had felt like you were evolving outside of your work life already.
Yeah.
And now maybe this is like marrying, the evolution that you saw in yourself. What was that? Like, can you tell me more? Like, if you can find words. I know there's like, not always words.
Yeah, sometimes I think I would equate it to like, when people say like you have to date around to find what you like in a partner, to find what you need from a relationship.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it felt like for me being at work or being on sets. It was like you have to be on a bunch of different sets to figure out what you need in an on-set experience. And being on Wayne, I was like, this is my partner. Like, this is what I want from work. Like, here are all of the qualities that I adore about this business. Like, that's what this project reintroduced me to, is like why I do what I do and why I love doing what I do and what I want to search for in future projects. Like, before, people always ask you, like, what kind of things do you want to work on? What kind of characters do you want to play? And I was like, I don't know. Like, whatever feels right in the moment. It's like a script by script basis. But this was like, oh, I know the core qualities that I want to be looking for. Being on this set, like, it didn't matter to me that the hours were long. It didn't matter to me that the work felt really hard at times. I felt supported and secure and taken care of. The role was fulfilling and it was exciting. Everyone wanted to be there. Everyone was excited to be doing what we were doing. And it was just it made the whole experience feel kind of romantic. And I was also like, to be fair, I was falling in love at the same time. I've been dating my co-star on it for the past, it'll be 6 years into this month. So it's like, there were a lot of things happening at the same time that I think made that project feel extra special. I felt like I was introduced to like a life partner with Mark, or just like someone that I adored and respected so much. And then in Shawn, I was like, this is someone who has, had a bit more experience in this career path, who I admire very greatly, who I think has a lot. He just felt like he had a lot to give. It felt like we were all very understood by him. It felt like he was looking at us as people and not just, coworkers, or I don't even know what the word I'm looking for is. Like, it didn't feel like business. It felt like we were making art.
Yeah. Okay. I have a question about Shawn that I don't know why this came to my head, but I wanted to ask, like, did it seem or does it seem like it's easy for Shawn to be Shawn?
No, and I think that's what makes it relatable. Like, that's what I found relatable about Shawn. It was like looking at him and I was like, oh, we're very similar people. He described this first where he was like, it feels like there's a car wreck happening in your heart at all times, always. And I was like, yeah. I was like, that's what being alive feels like, where it's just everything is very intense and sometimes it can be really scary and intimidating. And knowing that here is this like successful, accomplished person who I really respected, feeling those same feelings and being able to like operate and live in this world, I was like, this is who is going to, be able to help me. And he has, and he's a great friend to this day. He's someone that I go to constantly for work advice and life advice. He's amazing.
It's so interesting to think about the car wreck, that metaphor, because it's almost like people who, if you really feel like that, it must be like an interesting choice to let people in on the scene. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like let people be a part of that. Because sometimes if that's what's happening, but it's your own mess, right? It's your own heart.
Yeah.
It almost feels like you could either expect people to come clean it all up for you, which doesn't really seem like you.
No.
Or you could let people in your purview even while you're managing it.
That's how I like to go about life. I just think it's more, it just feels better to me. It feels like a better way to operate. I like letting people in a little bit. I like learning from the people around me. And I like cleaning up my own shit, frankly.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do.
You like get a satisfaction out of it.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I'm not saying like it's all on me, like I have to do it myself, because that's absolutely not the case. That's why I like letting these people in. But that's, for me, what, a big part of what life is about, is like figuring out how to operate in this world within a community and like feeling like I'm learning from the people around me and growing from the people around me. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be in the entertainment industry. It's just like, I've got this car accident happening in my heart or inside of my body at all times. It feels like, just like a clashing, and life is confusing and life can be, scary and intimidating, but letting other people in so that they can teach me like, oh, this is how I cleaned up this mess, or this is how I, operate doing this. And it's just, it gives me some clarity, and it allows me to be like, oh, this piece goes here sometimes. And if it doesn't feel right here, I can try moving it over here. And that just helps me, I don't know, operate, if that makes sense.
No, it makes so much sense to me. I just, sometimes when you talk, I just listen and then I think about it.
Great.
Because I've never thought about the image. But when I think about you and I think about that image, I think about change. Like I think about like the car is always crashing for you because you're changing so much. Like, and there's loss in change, and there's destruction in change, right? Like you're actively participating in your life, Ciara, in like such a way that where you're living. Look, you said that you had these two lives at the same time, but really like you're someone who is going to have so many chapters of your life, because look how many chapters you've had so far.
That's true. I hope so. I had a really bad high school experience for like reasons that I touched on before, like not being in a great place mentally, and things kind of fell to the wayside, and it started to feel like learning started to feel like a chore, and it was something that I had a negative association with. So like graduating high school was a huge deal for me, and I was like, I'm out of here. Like the relief of not ever having to go back to something like that again felt so good. Cut to me being like 24, 25, and I was like, I want so desperately to go back to school. I think I had entered, again, it was like those 4 years. Like it had been another 4 years. I'd felt really secure in who I was as a person. I'd felt really secure in my career and the things that were happening for me in that aspect and area of my life. And, for sometimes it felt like my brain was kind of atrophying and like spilling out of my ears, like I hadn't challenged myself or grown. And I had two friends in my life that had gone to school. They'd enrolled in community college to like transfer and get their degrees. And I was like, that's amazing. Like, that's incredible. I want to do that. I was like, but if I were to do that, what would I want to study? And I was like, well, I'm already an actor. I know what this world is. What else do I love? And that is science. And I really wanted to explore that more, like kind of get back to my roots and loving like digging around outside and like, I don't know, trying to understand the world around me a little bit and have more respect for that. And I think that's how I initially made that decision. It was a big choice for me because I was really afraid. I was so scared because the last thing I wanted to do was to slip back into old habits and old ways of thinking and old fears of like, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I feel like I'm under a mountain. Like I can't accomplish these things. My teachers are not I'm getting a lot of heat from these people who are supposed to be, kind of helping me and guiding me. It was just.
That's how they treated you when you were in high school, right?
A couple of teachers and my principal in particular. And I understand, like, none of them had any of the information. It was online school at that point. Like, we had never met in person. Like, these people don't know me. All they know is, like, I'm not getting my work done. And that's their job, is to make sure I was getting my work done. Like, no one had any access to the information of, like, I was really struggling to, like, operate.
But maybe their job is also to try to understand.
Exactly. There were two teachers in particular that were fantastic about that, and it was my English teacher. It's always the English teachers. I love English teachers. And finally, my Bible, it was a Catholic school, it was like my Bible studies teacher. They were so great about like checking in on me and like giving me grace and like offering help and just like really making sure that I felt like safe and taken care of. And I had on-set tutors that were fantastic, like truly fantastic people. But then I also had my high school principal who was like, your teachers are giving you too much rope and you're hanging yourself with it.
What?
Ouch.
Someone said that to you?
Yes, to a 17-year-old girl.
That person would be fired today.
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's an insane thing to say to somebody. That is an insane thing to say to somebody, especially if your job is like trying to nurture the growth of children. Like, what an outrageous thing to say. And I'm sure I had pushed her to like her wits' end at that point. Like, I don't know. I truly don't know. Like, if I'm being honest with you, a lot of, the experiences and the memories from that period of time are tucked away. And not in a bad, I'm not like repressing them. Like, I've worked through them and I've processed them, but I can't remember all the details.
Regardless.
That's still. I don't care. I'm not like,
I wouldn't care. Like, also the rope, when they said your teacher is giving you too much rope, it's like, what were you doing with it? You were working, you were going through puberty. Like, yes. I'm sorry, when you said that those years between like 14 and 19, I was like, puberty, like, it's all I can think about. Yeah. I'm like, this person is literally growing like a body and hormones and like.
You ever watch Big Mouth? It's that. It's just like chaos inside at all times. Yeah. You're just like screaming.
You're like a cauldron becoming a stew that you don't even know what it is. Exactly. And you didn't choose to be this.
I'm really tired and I'm so sad and everything feels like huge and just insurmountable. And I'm literally just like a ball of flames the entire time, just like destroying everything in my path, but like sitting there quietly because that's what you have to do. And it's like, yeah, oh my God, it was such oh my God, what a scary, wild time to be alive. But yeah, to hear that, it had two effects on me at that period in time. At first, I was like, actually just one, it made me so angry. It made me so mad. And it felt like I needed to like vindicate myself. Like I needed to
win.
I had to win. I had to defeat this enemy.
This is why we get along.
Exactly. I was like,
understand.
You don't even know. Yeah. I was like, how dare you say something like that about me? Yeah. And then I moved back home for a little bit and I like locked myself in the local library for 8 hours a day or 12 hours a day even. It was like opening to close. It was me and these little old ladies in the Campbell County Library. And I just like plugged my computer in and just got it all done. And I graduated with like all B's, which felt fantastic at the time. To pull that up from, failing out to graduating with that, I was like, that was such a success. So the last thing I wanted to do was find myself in that experience again, because it was very traumatizing and I felt like I had won the first time and I didn't want to.
Yep.
The difference was it was my choice and I wanted to be there. And so I set these boundaries with myself of like, there's no pressure on this. You're just doing this to expand your own way of thinking, your own worldview, to challenge myself, to see if I can, to grow, like you were saying, to grow. And I had learned that I could do it. I had done it before. Shawn had like given me the access to, feel comfortable in this other space of my life. And that foundation gave me the confidence to tackle this next battle. So now I'm in community school right now. I'm working on my associates for transfer and I'm having the time of my life. It feels so good to be in school again.
If we're all plants, sometimes we grow a branch and then we grow another branch and then we grow the like flowers or whatever it is. And it's like, it's been so cool in our like few years. I guess we've known each other 3 years now or something. Just watching you grow at a rate that feels like expeditious as much, like it's as quick as you could grow while like living, and I so admire you because there's not so many generations of like female actors who are just paving a path for you. Like you're living in an incredibly original life and I so admire it. And I really appreciate you sharing with me everything today.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me the space to talk about these things.
If you're enjoying Mentor Buffet, follow Voicing Change for more inspirational and truly life-affirming content from shows like Soul Boom, The Proof, Feel Better, Live More, and the Rich Roll podcast. Just go to voicingchange.media. That's voicingchange.media for a beautiful selection of productive and positive shows.